In a world where the line between reality and mysticism often blurs, one woman's quest for justice led to a courtroom drama that would shock many. This is the story of a woman who decided to sue a fortune teller for misleading predictions. Imagine entering a dimly lit room, the air filled with the scent of incense and the soft chime of wind bells. You sit across from a fortune teller, her hands adorned with rings and her eyes sparkling with a mix of mystery and charisma. She begins to share insights about your future, promising love, success, and happiness. But what happens when those predictions don't come true? What happens when, instead of joy, you find yourself in a spiral of despair and financial ruin? This was the experience of a woman named Michelle, who, seeking guidance and hope, found herself entangled in a web of deceit spun by a fortune teller named Madame Zora. Michelle, a single mother of two, was at a crossroads in her life. Struggling with finances and feeling lost, she turned to Madame Zora, a local fortune teller known for her uncanny ability to predict the future. Michelle was desperate for a glimmer of hope, a sign that things would improve. During her session, Madame Zora made several predictions, some of which seemed to resonate deeply with Michelle. She claimed that soon Michelle would meet a wealthy man who would change her life forever. "He will sweep you off your feet," Zora said, her voice dripping with confidence. "You will live a life of luxury and happiness." Can you imagine the thrill that must have raced through Michelle's heart at that moment? The dreams of a better life, the possibility of love, all painted in vivid colors by the fortune teller's words. But as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, no wealthy suitor appeared. Instead, Michelle found herself facing mounting bills and the relentless pressure of single motherhood. The situation escalated when Madame Zora continued to provide predictions, which Michelle followed, hoping for a shift in her fortunes. Zora advised her to invest in certain ventures, promising that they would yield great returns. Under the influence of her predictions, Michelle poured her savings into these ventures, but instead of prosperity, she faced devastating losses. At this point, Michelle was not only financially strained but emotionally distraught. What was supposed to be a light at the end of the tunnel had turned into an abyss of despair. Her life was spiraling out of control, and she felt betrayed. After exhausting all her options, Michelle decided to take action. In a bold move that many found shocking, she filed a lawsuit against Madame Zora. The claim was simple yet profound. Michelle accused Zora of fraud and emotional distress. Can you believe this actually happened? A woman taking a fortune teller to court. The media quickly picked up on the story, dubbing it the battle of belief and reality. The case sparked debates about ethics in fortune telling and whether these predictions should be seen as entertainment or serious guidance. As the court date approached, anticipation built. Michelle, fueled by a mix of hope and anger, prepared to face Zora in front of a judge. The courtroom was packed with reporters, curious onlookers, and skeptics, all eager to witness this unusual trial. When the trial began, the tension was palpable. Michelle took the stand first, recounting her experiences with Madame Zora. She spoke of her desperation and how she had placed her trust in Zora's predictions. "I felt like I was being led down a path of hope," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. But it was all a lie. The defense, however, was quick to challenge Michelle's claims. Madame Zora, sitting confidently in her chair, argued that her predictions were merely entertainment and that Michelle had made her own choices based on them. "I am not responsible for how people interpret my words," Zora declared, her voice unwavering. "My predictions are just that, predictions." Should fortune tellers be held accountable for the consequences of their predictions? The judge listened intently, weighing the arguments from both sides. As the trial continued, more witnesses were called. Friends of Michelle testified about her mental state after visiting Zora. "She was a different person," one friend stated. "She was filled with hope, and then that hope was shattered." But then, in a surprising twist, Zora brought forth her own witnesses, people who had benefited from her readings. "I predicted their success, and look where they are now," Zora exclaimed, pointing to supporters who claimed her guidance had changed their lives for the better. This left the jury in a precarious position. Should they consider the subjective nature of fortune-telling? Did Zora's supporters negate the claims made by Michelle? During closing arguments, Michelle's attorney made an impassioned plea. "This case is about more than just money," he said, emphasizing the emotional toll the situation took on Michelle. "It's about accountability. People must understand that their words have power, especially when they are promising something as profound as changing someone's life." The jury deliberated for what felt like an eternity. What would they decide? Would they rule in favor of a woman seeking justice, or would they side with a fortune teller claiming her predictions were merely whimsical? Finally, the moment arrived. The jury returned to the courtroom, and all eyes were on the foreman as he stood to deliver the verdict. "We find in favor of the defendant," he announced. Gasps filled the room. Michelle could barely contain her shock. In the aftermath of the trial, reactions poured in from all corners of society. Many supported Michelle, feeling that she had been wronged and that fortune tellers should be held accountable for misleading their clients. Others sided with Zora, arguing that individuals should take personal responsibility for their choices. But the case didn't end there. In the wake of the trial, Michelle became an advocate for consumer protection, sharing her story to raise awareness about the vulnerabilities people face when seeking guidance from fortune tellers. She started a blog, engaging with others who had similar experiences, creating a community of support and understanding. As for Madame Zora, the trial had an unexpected effect on her career. While some clients shied away, fearing potential legal troubles, others were drawn to her mystique, seeing her as a figure of resilience. Despite the court ruling, she continued her practice, albeit with a more cautious approach. The story of Michelle and Madame Zora invites us to reflect on the nature of belief and trust. Can we truly separate our hopes from the words of those who claim to see the future? What would you do in this situation? As we navigate our own lives, it's essential to remember that while seeking guidance is a natural part of the human experience, we must also cultivate our discernment and critical thinking. The world is filled with uncertainty, and while some may claim to hold the answers, the ultimate responsibility lies within ourselves. This case serves as a reminder that while the allure of fortune-telling may be strong, we should always approach such matters with caution. After all, the future is not set in stone, and it is our choices that shape the path ahead. In the end, both Michelle and Madame Zora emerged from this experience changed. Michelle learned to reclaim her power and advocate for herself and others, while Zora found new layers of complexity in her practice. And as life continues, both women carry their stories, woven together by a thread of shared experience, a reminder of the unpredictable journey we all navigate, filled with hope, despair, and the search for meaning.